have this ongoing conversation with my wife, and there are many topics that we have ongoing conversations about, and that's dressing it up quite a bit. They're mostly me ranting like a madman, and she's very patient and supportive and tries to get me back down to earth. But one of these topics is that I swear it's like every time you see um, a Generation Z couple or like high school graduation pictures from people, or like somebody goes to the prom, or YouTube thumbnails, you name it, whatever. Go to the mall. Are there malls anymore? Anyway, um, you see these couples, and I was telling my wife, I swear it looks like it's like a mature young woman, but a woman, um, and like a baby guy, like a baby, and you know, real like no fuzz on their face, no stubble, no muscle at all. They just look like the wind would blow them over, and really soft face, and it's like it creeps me out. It doesn't look right to me, and my wife, is just kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. So I made this post in January on my blog called "The Hormonal Apocalypse," and it's intense, but the title, but I can pull it up here. I gotta, you know, there's lots of statistics and sources, but it's not too long. The outcomes of this are enormous. They're absolutely enormous. But these are problems affecting both men and women. You probably know a lot of women who are struggling with infertility uh, and other issues, but no one's really talking about it in terms of either for men or women, in terms of what's causing this. Is it a big deal? Should we be trying to do something about it? What can be done? And you kind of have to hit the internet and hit the peer-reviewed literature to see research studies about this. And you probably have to go back to 2008, 2012, before the whole woke wave hit, because now no one can really do research on anything where there's an actual gender difference, because the government's not going to give you money for that, and you won't get very far in the academic field by doing that. But I like I said, that was in January, but there's been this ongoing conversation as of late with my wife and I, because I saw something, I don't remember, and I was just like, am I going crazy? And she kind of looked at me like I was. So I went ahead and hit the interwebs, and I pulled up some PubMed peer-reviewed studies. And what I pulled was the following. So we'll start with the facts. Facts are that since the 1970s, there have been researchers who've been looking at testosterone in men. And since then, they've seen a consistent 1% per year decline in testosterone rates of men, not due to aging, controlling for age. So younger people have every year, they'll like an 18-year-old, whatever you want to fix the age to, it doesn't matter. They'll have a 1% less testosterone than people of that same age the year prior. And the pattern's holding. It's been holding since the 1970s. So that's one factoid. The other factoid is what measurement of testosterone, I forget the units, but this is a blood measurement. And there are different tests and everything else, and there's a range. It actually doesn't matter what number we start with, but this is inside the range of normal. It's about in the middle. And so that's another fact. And then what I've done here, this column is just math. This is just comparing what this 1% reduction per year is compared to 1975, or 76 in this case. So that should say 1976, but off by a year, it doesn't matter. And I'm a programmer by trade, so off by one, that's my bread and butter. So we're just saying what percent is this number of that, and that's what goes into this column. Okay. Now, finally, this last column is a little bit more complicated. So I saw other research studies I was asking the question for an individual man, what kind of testosterone decline can they expect to see over the span of their life, and what does that curve look like? And if we kind of round out the numbers, a conservative estimate is 1% per year, ironically, right? So that's what society is seeing for people of the same age each year. But for an individual man who's 1 year older each year, it's also about 1%. It's actually 1.6%, according to one paper I saw. But we're going to go ahead and round down just to make it more conservative, so we don't get accused of being alarmist here, okay? So these are all measured facts so far. Now, here's the crazy thing, all right? So we look at 1976. I was born in 1983, okay? So, and that 1% per year, it starts around 40, according to the literature. Um, yeah, okay, so let's just roll with that. So this is like your age equivalent of an 18-year-old compared to an 18-year-old from 1975. So because your testosterone rate is roughly consistent as a man until around 40. This is according to the literature. I actually seriously doubt that, but whatever. Let's just go with what that one paper said, just because I'm trying to illustrate an idea here and not get into the nitty gritty. So, age adjusted, you're no longer in the 18 to 40 range, which is a consistent 750 ish. You're at 41, and then 42, and then 43. Okay. So this is going to freak you out a little bit, but it also explains the baby faces, and you will not. More and more people are talking about this, but it's not like you're going to see this on the nightly news. But anybody can make a spreadsheet like this, and you don't have to be the one doing the huge research studies. It's already been done. It's out there. You can look at it. Or you can just go to the mall, but not for long because they're all closing down. So as we cruise here, I was born in 1983, and the age equivalent for an 18-year-old in 1983 is already 48, which is nuts, right? Just testosterone wise. Now, this age, it's not like you're going to see like, was that Benjamin Button? Like some guy getting really old and shriveled in real time. We're talking about testosterone. The effects of testosterone aren't just anti-aging, although that's one of them. But you'll look really young because there's a curve, right? And old people, when they're old men, when their testosterone drops off, they age faster, but it has the same effect before it kicks in. So you'll look younger, right? Or less masculine. You'll look more boyish, I should say. Not younger, but boyish, right? Because you don't have the facial structure, the muscle structure, the facial hair, and so forth. Okay, so that's already a pretty significant jump, right? You'll feel that. There's a difference between 750 and 700. But as we cruise through to the 90s kids, it's pretty nuts. So now they're at like 83%, 79% of their, however old they are today. If you were born in 1999, however old you are, you have 79% of the testosterone that a man born in 1975 would have had. Do you get that? That's a really big deal. And it gets a lot worse, okay? So if you're Twin Towers, baby, you're still kind of close to that, 78. Once you get up to like 2010, this level of testosterone that you will have as an 18-year-old, max lifetime testosterone, that is low enough that you can be prescribed testosterone replacement therapy at 538. If you get a blood test, you go to an endocrinologist, there are endocrinologists that will prescribe you testosterone, because at 538, if you started higher than that and you came down to that, you're going to feel way more tired. You're going to have way less initiative to do anything. You're going to have way less drive of all forms. We'll keep this rated G. You'll be way less interested in women, um, and on and on and on. You're not going to sleep well. And when you don't sleep well, all these other things go wrong and become more difficult. That was in 2009. 18-year-olds in 2009 started at that level. Okay? So it's like 70% of a 1975, a man born in 1975. Age equivalent, 74 years old. 74 years old. That's a big deal. So when you see back in 2009, you look at an 18-year-old, that's the equivalent of a 74-year-old as far as the testosterone he's got. Now we fast forward to 2023, where we are today. 62% of the testosterone of a man born in 1975. Age equivalence is 88. Is 88. Okay. Now let me ask you, like, what 88-year-old man is going to go start a business? What 88-year-old man is going to, scour his locale to find a wife? What 88-year-old man is going to do anything in a day without being tired? It's like, my one thing I'm going to do today is my laundry, and then I'm going to have to take a nap. And no offense if you're an octogenarian, and you might be one of these, I wear my Iron Man watch and I run everywhere I go or whatever types. But by and large, like, that's going to be a problem, right? Now, here's the funny thing is, like, you extract the effects of low testosterone from someone who's nearly 90 years old, and you impose them on someone who's, let's say 22, 23. What do you think you're going to get? Well, look around. That's what you get. That's what you get. Okay? So why are all these guys sitting in their mom's basements playing video games all day? Why do they refuse to get a job? And when they do, it's just a minimum wage joke job. And they just complain like a little kid would about everything instead of going out and getting it done. This is why. This is why. And it's funny because, see, I'm an older millennial. That's my age category, but I watch the boomers and the Gen Zs fight each other, or the younger millennials, online in news comment boards and things. And the boomers, they tell the Gen Z people that they're lazy, and the younger millennials that they're lazy, and their lives stink because they won't actually work hard. And the younger people complain that the game has changed and it's a lot harder. And actually, they're both completely 100% right. The game has changed and it is harder, but young people are freaking lazy. And young men in particular, they have a real problem with this. Okay? And why is it? This is why. So, before we get to what can be done about it, if we look forward for another 10 years, it just keeps getting worse. And we're going down to 50%. So, you want to know why more and more men can't have babies? In fact, more and more men can't get aroused to even get close to that. People are pointing to a lot of things, but this is amongst the primary factors. I would seriously doubt if it's not the number one factor. So why does this happen? Oh, incidentally, too, we've got a fast growing number of female pedophiles. This is a real issue. So a lot of school teachers, for example, female school teachers are getting busted with high school kids, males, and so on. Well, when your peer group looks 5 years younger than you, and you are 18 or 19, so you grew up through adolescence with males who were delayed by 5 years or so in how they look, that's going to be a problem, right? All the boys in your class look like they're, you're a senior in high school, they look like they're in 8th grade. And then is it a surprise when all of a sudden you turn 19 or 18 and you still like boys who look like they're in eighth grade. Not that I'm not defending this at all. I'm saying there are big cascading consequences that come out of these problems that I think people ought to be talking about and trying to do something about. And I seriously doubt society will. If you look at um, ancient civilizations which have collapsed, which is all of them, you'll see a strong pattern. One of the indicators that a society is headed for collapse is that they become more androgynous, which means they cease making distinctions between the sexes. And so I don't think people see this as a bad thing per se, or at least not enough people even care to notice it for some kind of societal change to be expected. However, as individuals, as parents, you should be really worried about this. And the question is, what can be done about it? And for this, I recommend that you hit the internet and do some research. There are researchers out there who have been looking at this, scientists, and they have theories and evidence about the sorts of things that have been causing this. And unfortunately, it's not one smoking gun like, oh, there's this one particular plastic in this one very specific situation that is causing this problem. Or, hey, don't buy this one brand of deodorant. It's not like that. It's an endemic result of a confluence of factors. Plastics are a big part of it, which it's not just all the plastics that our food comes in, or pretty much everything at the supermarket is sold in, which it used to be glass, right? Or paper. It's also in the air that you breathe. I saw a paper not too long ago about microplastics that are in the air. And some astronomical amount of microplastics are inhaled if you live in almost every place where humans live in the United States, for example. So there are a lot of things in the food we eat. That's a huge part of it. Also, a lot of people who live in places that have municipal water, particularly if it's recycled, that's a huge issue, because things like birth control pills that women take, hormonal birth control pills, they urinate those out, those hormones, and then they get in the water, and then men drink the water. So there are things like that that have a very low, your body's extremely sensitive to many things like this, where you just don't have to consume very much to have an effect. And so as it grows in the environment and is more widespread in the food we eat, so processed foods are another one that are mentioned, you're going to have cascading issues. So long story short, first let me ask, do you think it's a big deal to have approach 50% of the testosterone of an equally aged man in 1975? Because there are an awful lot of people who pay a lot of money and go through a lot of inconvenience, a lot of men who do all that to take testosterone. They buy it, and then there are various transmission methods, but it's worth it to them because it's such a big deal. It makes such a difference in their lives. And so we're unleashing a population of 18-year-old males who are suffering from all those same effects of low testosterone. What's it worth to prevent that or to correct it? So is it worth buying fewer foods that are packaged in plastic? Is it worth trying to grow more foods? Is it worth moving to a place where you could do that? Because you can't do that if you're in the suburbs and you have a quarter-acre lot, right? Is it worth it to move to a place where you're not inhaling terrible air? I remember I lived in Utah for about 7 years while I was in grad school, and I could not believe how many sick young kids there were all the time. And that's another confluence of issues, but there are serious air quality problems in the two most populous counties in Utah, the two valleys there. And um, people opt to live there, even though the odds of their kids getting asthma are through the roof. They're through the roof in those areas, but people choose to live there anyway. Um, so, and then they're sick all the time, which causes issues as well. So the question is, what is this worth? Can you pay attention to it? Is there anything you can do about it? So it's a really big problem, and I hope more people start paying attention to it because, uh, if your 18-year-old has testosterone levels in the mid 400s and they end up not doing anything with their lives, uh, geez, why is that a surprise, right? So I didn't pull the numbers, and I'm sure 460 is, I would expect that that's still way high for an average woman. So women have way less testosterone than men. But, as those levels approach one another, um, yeah, why are you going to be surprised if there's not so much difference between the two, right? And in the choices that they make and the way they behave, the way they see life. So, anyway, things to think about. I hope that's eye opening.